This video will spoil all of Game of Thrones. If you're planning to binge it in the future, seriously, leave right the f now. In 2018, there were a total of 560 newborn babies in the US named Khaleesi. That and a laundry list of other names provided by the United States Social Security Administration shows a total of 4,500 newborn babies in that year alone named after Game of Thrones characters. I think it's safe to say that Game of Thrones, for better or worse, has changed our society for quite a bit. And make no mistake, the genesis of this collective obsession resides solely in the characters. For that matter, I was a bit surprised, if not a tad annoyed, to find out that out of the 4,500 newborn babies named after Game of Thrones characters, only 14 were named Theon. Because even if Theon Greyjoy isn't the best character, he's probably the most interesting and certainly the most fully developed, with evocation of pity, fear, and okay, maybe not that fully developed, or not fully developed in that specific regard, but characters like Theon, who's basically a sidekick for a full season before we get to see his story, has a unique edge over other main characters that goes beyond Aristotle's principle of tragedy. Because ever since film and TV has been around, there have been possibilities that Aristotle just couldn't have accounted for, like editing, cutting in a single close-up just to see his smirk.
Did you get a look at his daughters?
I did.
Or a single line.
You afraid? Good. Means you're not stupid.
Sometimes Theon gets his own scene, but he's never really the focus. He's always a tool for exposition or microphones for something completely irrelevant to his own story. 10 full episodes have gone by, and we've known him just enough to leave an impression, but not enough for us to feel for him yet. By the end of season 1, we kind of know him, but we don't. All that's left in our mind about Theon is that he's arrogant, self-absorbed, but he hasn't done anything to appeal or offend us yet. And after a while, the effect starts to accumulate. It's almost like it's preparing us for the fastest emotional response when the story finally leaned towards his side. By the beginning of season 2, when Theon volunteered to go to the Iron Islands to convince his father to fight for the Starks, all I could think of is he's gonna f this up so bad. But this was before we've ever seen the Iron Islands, or met his father, or met his sister. This is largely because the impressions we had on him was enough for us to make that assumption. When we eventually get to Pike with him and find out about his history, being an unwanted child, being disrespected by his family, we start to slowly feel pity for him despite his imperfections. We do so, well, at least I do, because I think his arrogance is a result of his insecurity. The fear of being unworthy, the fear of being unwanted. But this is where Aristotle's poetic comes into play. For Aristotle, there are only a couple types of characters that can effectively evoke pity and fear, and they're based off of a few criteria. First, the character has to experience an undeserved misfortune. This was thought to be the source of pity by Aristotle, whereas the source of fear will come from a character that is morally neutral. For Aristotle, pity and fear is not possible when the undeserved misfortune happens upon an evil man, because it'll only be appropriate. Vice versa, when the undeserved misfortune happens upon an admirable hero. For Aristotle, it's quote-unquote disgusting. Now, I might not feel as extremely about this as he does, but he's not wrong. When Ned Stark, the honorable mighty hand of the king, was imprisoned for crimes he didn't commit and then got executed for it, I didn't feel pity or fear. I just felt like it was wrong. But when Theon, a plenty flawed character, gets betrayed by his own people and captured for torture, I felt pity, because it takes a connectable character for us to feel emotionally attached. Likewise, the sequence when Theon and Sansa flee Winterfell chased by Bolton cavalry, I feared for them on the edge of my seat because I'm invested in this character. Third, and this is important, hamartia, which is the Greek word that means tragic flaw. What Aristotle refers to is an irreversible action committed by the character that erupts a series of unfortunate events. For Theon, this would refer to the sacking of Winterfell, eventually leading to Robb Stark's revenge on him, causing his capture. This will later be followed by peripecia and anagnorisis, which consists of a reversal, action committed that causes a different effect than the character intended, and a recognition, which the character is rid of his ignorance and gets a grasp of what the actual situation is.
Robb Stark is dead.
And all these woven together, creating the mythos of Theon, you might ask. Where is catharsis? The ultimate redemption of Theon's morals after all these changes and attempts to redeem himself as a true Ironborn. What happened to catharsis? Now, I think this is where modern understanding of the word catharsis and what Aristotle actually meant when he coined the term diverged in directions. To us, catharsis means reconciliation, for a character to rise up against his flaws and reclaim his righteousness. But for Aristotle, redemption has got little to do with it. In fact, the term catharsis was barely even mentioned in Poetics. The definition he gave was purification of emotions, and this so-called purification arises from the plot itself. If the writing was done properly according to the principles of tragedy, the pity and fear evoked throughout the story should naturally make the audience feel cleansed of their emotions, what he called purgation. And this has got nothing to do with satisfaction. Aristotle believed that making the audience feel gratified for the sake of their joy is a result of poets catering to weak audiences. Quote, "Poets follow audience lead and compose whatever to their taste, but this is not the pleasure which comes from tragedy." Theon never redeemed himself. He never faced Ramsay, he never got his father's approval, and he never revenged his sister with Euron. He just tried to prove himself but fails over and over again. The conclusion of Theon is a lonely death, with this being his only approval.
You're a good man. Thank you.
The ending of Theon isn't easy to swallow, just like many other things in Game of Thrones. It's not interested in making our flaws easier to deal with. It's a reflection that forces us to live with them. Our very own Hamasha. I get chills watching Theon's fable, and I'll remember his story for years to come. And this, at least for me, is what catharsis, as Aristotle genuinely intended, truly entails. So the next time you're choosing a Westerosi name for your newborn baby and you're thinking, John, think again. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had a lot of fun making it. As you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and also I'm a big fan of Aristotle and the book Poetics. This is a great book if you want to learn screenwriting. Aaron Sorkin's actually said in his masterclass that Aristotle's Poetics is the only book that you'll ever need if you want to learn screenwriting. After reading it a couple of times, I can certainly tell why he made that statement. It's a great book, you learn a lot from it, and you should totally check it out. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.